I really hope that in the videos that I've made, I've shown to you that real godly Christian living is not based on rule keeping, but on the transforming effect of our faith. Through the message of the cross, we have been drawn and reconciled to God, and God has given us the Holy Spirit. But this vision of Christian living is, at the same time, both powerful and fragile. It's fragile because of attacks from legalizers, who diminish the importance of transforming faith, who make the whole thing about sterile rule-keeping rather than a living transformation of the human heart. But it's also fragile for other reasons. Even after we believe, even after we get the Holy Spirit, Christians aren't perfect, and we won't be perfect until we reach heaven. But also, not everyone who joins us in our churches have really been won to God. Jesus warned us about people who act like Christians, say all the right things, but they aren't changed by the message of the cross. These people can end up living in the worst of both worlds. They remain unchanged, unmoved by the gospel, and without explicit rules of behavior to adhere to, there's no end to the harm that they can do in the name of liberty. If there's no discipline within an assembly of believers, then potentially disastrous things can happen. That's what happened in the early church of Corinth. We don't know all the details of the case in question. All we have is what Paul wrote in his letter to that little group of believers. But what happened was truly shocking, even by the standards of the ancient secular world. Paul had to intervene, and he wrote a strongly worded letter criticizing not only the immoral act itself, but the assembly at Corinth for their lack of discipline. He told them that they should have expelled that person from the church. But what then about liberty? What about Christians not judging? What about allowing faith to make the change instead of placing restrictions on each other's behavior? Is Paul backtracking? It was Jesus who first spoke about discipline within the Christian church. He said in Matthew chapter 18 verse 15, "If your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. But if he will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, treat him as you would a pagan or a tax collector." I think that this is probably one of the least applied scriptures in the whole Bible. How often have you seen it applied within your local church? People who are offended by others find it really difficult to go to the other person and tell them how they were hurt. Instead, they tend to harbour the hurt and let it eat away at them. But Jesus spoke of the need for Christians to attempt to repair relationships. Perhaps the person in question didn't realize the damage that they had done. When they are told, they may even be embarrassed and sorry about what they did. But if they don't listen, Jesus told his disciples that it is the obligation of the offended party to bring the matter to the church, and that if the offender doesn't listen to the church, then the church is expected to act to expel that person. It seems a little drastic, doesn't it? But church assemblies were never meant to be simply entertainment centres. They are supposed to be little pieces of God's kingdom on earth. They are supposed to be serious about maintaining the holiness of the name of God by which they are called. If churches called by Christ's name become a place where people are biting and devouring one another, using and abusing one another, then how are we bringing glory to Him? In this world today, sex is regarded as a recreational thing. It is often portrayed to us as completely harmless enjoyment. But many of us know from experience, Christians and those who aren't Christians, that sex isn't merely recreation. People love act in sex, don't they? They kiss, they caress, they act in a loving and intimate way. Because of this, if they don't act responsibly, they can lead vulnerable people on. They can make a person feel desirable and lovable. And then, when they've had their fill of the physical aspect of that person, they then go on like a locust to pastures new, leaving devastation behind them. Think about it a moment. Can you say that this never happens? Has it happened to you? Then ask yourself how you, as a Spirit-filled Christian, think that a church with Spirit-filled elders leading them should respond to that behaviour. How many complaints from vulnerable Christians who have been used in this way would they have to listen to before they, as an assembly, decided that sex should be reserved for committed relationships? I'm not here to write anyone off and tell them that they're so sinful that God would never forgive them. If I did that, then I'd be writing myself off, because I've done a lot of things in my life that I now regret, selfish things that hurt other people. But would you really want to join a church which was battling with relationship problems of the type that you would expect on a Jerry Springer show? People hopping from one bed to the next and destroying one another emotionally and psychologically through sex. Do you think that that church, a church like that, could ever really deserve to be called by Christ's name? There will be people now who will say that this is the back door to legalism. They want to be free to do whatever they want, and they want to make up their own rules. But as I hope I've shown you in the videos that I've made, Christians aren't left without any rules. We have a law that the gospel message itself teaches us. Love one another. I am not trying to create a new law. I'm only applying this one.